We're looking west for our next decent chance of rain, and there's really nothing out there. Everything passing well towards our north as we've got zonal flow set up across west coast right now. And when we look at the upper level pattern and kind of look at the water vapor to give us an idea of how things are moving in the atmosphere based off of that moisture movement. And so things are kind of moving from west to east here across the western half of the country, but then it runs into this ridge that is situated here. So things kind of coming up and over and then back down here along the east coast where we've got a trough set up. So we've got this kind of pressured, elongated ridge that is centering right across the Mississippi Valley, and that's what we're under right now. So it's keeping our weather dry. So you can see how we've got that kind of west to east flow here. Then you've got more of that dip in the jet stream, but then right here across our area, there's that elongated ridge of high pressure. Now, as we move forward in time, what's going to happen is the ridge is going to get suppressed. So it's going to get pushed down, and eventually what's going to win out is what we call zonal flow. So that's that flow from west to east. You can kind of make it out here with our wind stream lines here, these little white lines showing that flow being from west to east. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is a lot of the disturbances are going to get caught up in the northern part of that zonal flow. So they're going to pass well towards our north, not delivering for us a decent chance of rain in the forecast. So even as we transition out of a dominant ridge of high pressure weather pattern, we're still going to have to wait on what looks to be maybe a developing trough here as we go into the beginning of next week. So 7 days from now, maybe starting to sprinkle in a little bit better chance of rain in the forecast. So expect mainly dry conditions for the next 10 days. I've already had to drag out the sprinklers, you probably as well, for the yards to try and keep them looking green. Maybe not every day running them, but every other day. Certainly not a bad idea. If you are going to be running the sprinklers, keep in mind you want to try and run them early in the morning or later in the evening, not during the immediate daylight hours, because it actually will evaporate before actually soaking into the ground. But we're not dry enough to really have alarm bells in terms of drought conditions. This is the U.S. Drought Monitor that gets released every Thursday. And this past Thursday, they still have us under abnormally dry conditions, kind of east of Baton Rouge, a few spots west of Baton Rouge. But that's the lowest level of drought that the U.S. Drought Monitor releases. But things have gotten bad enough in terms of dry conditions that a couple of parishes within our area have issued burn bans, and that includes St. Helena and Tangipahoa. So as we dry things out, that's the kind of concern, and the current weather forecast continues the fire concern for some of these areas. So keep in mind, you may be asked not to do some open burning in parishes that are maybe considering doing some burn bans. So we'll keep an eye out on how that progresses as we continue with very minimal rain chances in our future. So these are rain chances over the next 7 days. You can see a spotty sprinkle or two is about all we're going to see for the rest of the work and school week going into the weekend. Again, seeing that transition, maybe starting to see a slight uptick in rain chance, but even then doesn't look all that promising, because you take a look at the amount of rainfall we're anticipating over the next 7 days, talking about less than 1/4 of an inch of rainfall for those that do see rain. So it's really not going to amount to a whole heck of a lot. Keeping our eyes not on the western half of the Atlantic Basin, but actually the eastern half, where we've got Invest 92L, which is way out here in the eastern Atlantic. That has been given an 80% chance of tropical development over the next 7 days. So still going to take some time for it to get organized, but it is going to be moving to a more hospitable environment for development. Right now, still being impacted by wind shear. That's up towards the northern quadrant of this system. So you can see how the movement of this Invest is moving towards areas a little bit less in terms of wind shears. So that should help out. Also less in terms of dry air entrapment. So it does look like it does have some promising signs for development. Where ultimately it heads, still a little bit of a question mark, but looks like we may get a trough developing across the eastern part of the country. Helps steer it back out to sea as we go into the beginning and midpoint of next week. We'll continue to watch for that pattern to materialize. So spotty at best, rain chance for next couple of days. You can see daytime highs still well above average, which is actually 89 degrees now. So we're in the low 90s to mid 90s each and every day, heading all the way into next weekend.